Welcome to Fantastic Tones for Human Bones. My name is Robert Woods-Ledoux. My co-host Mark Piscucci-Clifford is here.
Hello.
Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Àlex Reviriego. Alex is the bass player for INHUMANKInd and many other projects, as well as well as his own solo efforts. Alex, thank you so much for making the time to speak with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, our pleasure.
So you just released the newest album from INHUMANKInd, Self-Deification, on Voidhanger Records, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah, this record is incredible. It sounds amazing too.
Thank you.
So there's really a lot to get into.
Okay.
INHUMANKInd is a duo project with you and Pablo Selnik. Is that the correct way to say it?
That's right. Selnik.
So it's I guess at the very least inspired by metal.
Well, it's totally inspired by metal.
Yeah. I read let's see, there's one interview with, I don't know if it was you or Pablo that I read, but you were like listing different influences, and I was just like, oh man, it was like Perez, Cryptopsy, just like one after another, like things that I'm really into. Let's see if I could find that.
Yeah, there are many interviews. Well, the fact is that the band started being a cover band, but very short-lived cover band.
Because you just started composing right away after you heard some transcriptions, or
it was something. I mean, I knew Pablo from a long time ago, and we played in different projects like free improvisation or like modern jazz or more like contemporary music. But we both were huge fans of black metal and death metal, and we were always talking about Gorguts or Cryptopsy or those bands. And one day Pablo called me on the phone and I said, "Hey, Alex, we should do some kind of black metal cover band, but just with flute and bass." And so totally into it. and we started we made like a short list, and we still play a Darkthrone cover in live. But really, we just did a couple of covers and then started to write music. But at the beginning, it was purely a metal band.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it became pretty clear, like pretty quickly, that once you all heard yourselves playing these covers, that you're like, okay, this is a thing. We need to write for this, right? Is that kind of how it felt? Like it felt like something gelled right away, and you had something special to work with?
Yeah, immediate. Yeah, it was really, really fast. And since, I mean, we know each other really well, and we knew it was going to work, so we really go head on.
Did you study like jazz or classical in school? I'm curious.
Yeah. I have a degree actually from conservatoire. I studied, my degree is in jazz, even if I haven't played jazz for like ages. But yeah, I studied jazz and I also studied classical music. So yeah, I have a pretty straightforward education, music-wise.
Did you by chance go to school with Pablo?
No, Pablo is slightly older than me, and he started. He was my teacher at one point, even if we are really close in ages. I think Pablo is like 3 years my elder, 4 years, something like this.
Okay.
But he graduated really fast, and since he was the best flute player ever, they just hired him automatically as a teacher. Yeah, he was a teacher in what was like a kind of ensemble class, like free improvisation. It wasn't free improvisation, but something like this. But really, I was there just some months, but we knew each other previously. But it was strange.
So what school was this at?
Pablo studied at the SMUC school, it's like the superior school in Catalonia, and I studied at Conservatori del Liceu, another school in Barcelona.
Okay.
Is everyone around there? It seems like the scene out there is extremely open and a lot of interfacing with different styles of improvisation and heavy music and creative thinking and creative playing. Does it seem like like even when you were in school, was this the case, or is this kind of a scene that you have cultivated around yourself over time?
I don't think so. In fact, I suppose it's like a common story with many people. But at the end of the school, I was really fed up with everything. I really hated. I absolutely hated it because my interests were very different, and I didn't find.
Yeah.
I mean, there was people that I could talk to and I could think about, but I suppose also that studying jazz was really like ill-advised, or it wasn't a good idea probably. But I enjoyed that. I learned a lot, and it was amazing. But at some point, it just didn't. I didn't want to play like jazz standards, or I.
Yeah,
It's great, but I wasn't interested in that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I can relate, and I know a lot of other folks that can. I got a classical degree, but I studied jazz, and then by the time I graduated, I wanted to do neither of those. And I'm just now coming back around to learning jazz standards and enjoying it, like years later. You know what I mean? But I kept improvising the entire time. So
No, absolutely. I even at home I play a lot of Mozart or Beethoven or classical music for practicing, and I still, since I'm a teacher, I teach jazz sometimes, like standards, and it's fine. But it didn't represent me at that time, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were young, you were into metal though, and you've always been into metal, basically.
Yeah, I was super into metal, like mostly extreme metal. I never liked heavy metal that much, Iron Maiden or that stuff. It's cool, and at some point I listened to that, but it wasn't really my main interest. But then, like American death metal, like Morbid Angel or those bands, like they totally blew my mind. And then all the older, all the European black metal bands, I listened to them when I was a teenager, and I still listen to them now a lot. So
yeah.
But I was into many other stuff, also alternative rock or that kind of indie rock. I was really into also.
Right on. So, of your repertoire that I can find, there's really only one project that I found that was like really seemed like it was in the category of like a more normal metal, even though it's definitely not normal. The Abao.
Okay, yeah.
Devastaciones bajo el fulgor del vacío. Yeah. What is that?
That's great. It's and the story is nice because there's an amazing festival in Bilbao. It's in northern Spain. It's called Zarata, and I played there several times with different bands. And with INHUMANKIND, we played 2 times there. And the guy who organizes that, it's Miguel Ángel García. He's an amazing noise musician, a good friend. And he did some kind. And the festival is not like metal or not necessarily noise. There are like free improvisation and contemporary stuff and different things. It's very open-minded.
Oh, cool.
But one year he decided to do it like themed about black metal. So everything has to have some kind of black metal thing in it.
Okay.
And it was really, really fun. So, and then he made some guests, and he plays in a band called Black Earth. And they also invited Miguel Soto, an amazing black metal musician from Galicia. So we were there like for one day, and I don't know exactly how. Well, no, they managed to get like a studio date, and we also did like a live improv set.
Oh, wow.
With like, it was free improv, but with much of the musicians were metal musicians or noise musicians. And then was like Vasco Trilla and myself who were more like the free improvisation.
Okay.
And it was so fun that we just recorded that, and Miguel's been editing it, and that's it. About.
Okay.
I like it a lot. I think it's great, but it's more metal.
I was listening to this, and I just realized last night, because I was looking on Bandcamp, and there's like the vinyl and the cassette and the CD, and I had just realized that they're different music. It's not even like the same. Because like that's really funny, because like a lot of times on Bandcamp that you'll see it like that, and it'll just be like different formats, but tricky.
See, I think this is much Miguel Soto's, that he's been working on it, and it's really a fun project. I'm looking forward to play live this. It was incredibly fun. because in this festival, because now I'm remembering that, and they use some kind of really thick fog. I don't know how to say in English. Fog machines. In this scenario. And there's the rumor they use some kind of illegal formula, so that the fog is super thick, and the whole ambience in the concert was like a sun concert or something, like really, and it was so fun to do. Wow. And we just get carried away with that aesthetic and this idea of being so like totally noisy black metal.
Awesome.
With coming from the free improv world of that and combining those two, this was not written music, right? This was improvised, is what you were saying?
Oh, totally improvised.
That is awesome. That is such a cool idea. Can we hear a little bit of that, Bob?
Yeah, I played like a sample of like the middle of the track Eviscerando la Sombra. It's like an endless spiral going down. Like it's like you're in a whirlpool being sucked up. What's La Sombra mean?
The shadow.
Oh, so like destruction of the shadow, or evisceration of the shadow, rather.
Yeah, it'd be that. Okay. Exactly.
Awesome. So
that is such a cool idea. I'm surprised that there's not, I mean, more of this kind of crossover between these worlds. It works so well, you know. It's amazing. But
well, actually, here in Barcelona, there's it's not like there's a scene, but since many of the free improvising musicians are metalheads, there's a lot of this kind of cross-pollination. I don't know. There's so many, especially guitar players. I'm thinking about Diego Caicedo, a good friend of mine who is like amazing free improvising guitar player, but his language is mostly like cryptopsy or that kind of phrasing or like that kind of style of guitar playing. He plays with like a 7-string guitar tuned really low with really abrasive distortion but he's an amazing improvisation guitar player. Diego Caicedo, he's a Colombian but he lives here. And well, Pablo Selnik from Inhumankind and Vasco Trilla, the drummer, he's also a kind of encyclopedia of extreme metal. He knows everything. But then he plays his beautiful solo sets with bells and cymbals. But yeah, so there are many musicians.
Very cool. And so this seems like I'm just curious. Like, did you ever play in like a proper? Well, okay. First question. I can't even tell. Is it upright bass in this?
Yeah.
Like, do you ever play electric bass, or is it just upright for you?
I did play electric bass, but I hardly ever play it. And when I was younger, I did some like work as an electric bass player, like session things. But I was never that interested in. I mean, I like it's a great instrument and it's amazing, but I just like was much more focused on acoustic bass. And I never play electric bass now. In all these records are acoustic bass always. So,
did you ever play in like a more normal metal band, or is this as normal as it gets?
When I was a teenager.
Okay.
I played electric bass, of course, in those bands.
Okay.
But yeah.
Right on.
Not really. I mean, not like I never did like a metal tour or something like this. But I had like when I was in my early teens or mid-teens, the kind of band that we rehearsed metal tunes and tried to sound something like Early Death or something like this. I don't know exactly what we were doing, but I was playing in a proper metal band.
Cool. Right on. So the first INHUMANKIND record came about. It was released in 2018. How long were you guys together before that record came together?
Honestly, I'm not sure now. I know that maybe not that long, a couple of years before, or 1 year and something before. But I mean, we rehearsed a lot, and even if it seems fast, we put a lot of work in the first album. And I remember that we started with Pablo to have this idea, started to meet, and then weekly we did weekly rehearsals, like pretty intense. And much of the music was written by Pablo, and he writes really fast. But the hard work was to put it together, like, because of course you can have like the ideas, which were amazing, but then it's like rehearsing a kind of chamber ensemble, like something like this, like string trio or string quartet, something that you have to rehearse really carefully every phrase or every end. And since we play this live and we play just the whole record straight ahead, so you have to practice it like a classical musician would practice his parts.
Yeah, in the videos that there's the one video of y'all playing duo, and some of it is memorized. So I mean that I was going to ask about your rehearsal process. So that makes a lot of sense that you put a lot of time into it. You know.
Totally. I usually play the whole set by memory. And many times we just have the sheet music because as a safety net, because sometimes you just get like, but I don't know, we rehearse a lot. It's a lot of tedious repetition, like over and over. And I practice it at home also. I mean, I like that kind of repetition. I like that kind of work. I still practice the same Mozart overtures, and I like to keep like making better every day. Yeah. And with Pablo, we usually just talk a little bit about each song and then just play it over and over and over. We used to meet and do we play the whole set, like from song one to the last one, without pause, comment something, play again the whole set, and just keep doing this.
Yeah. So is all the music notated, or is it some of it?
Yeah.
So is it notated? I'm curious about the writing process then. Is the writing, do you guys work things out like, maybe we try this, or like while you're rehearsing it, or?
Not really. It's everything is written in like totally conventional notation.
Okay.
With like, absolutely. And I'm thinking how to explain that. Let's say, usually Pablo writes the piece, and I know that he's really fast at writing. He doesn't believe that much in mending stuff or changing it. So he'll just write the ideas. Many times it's just unison lines, so he will just write one really tricky line.
Yeah.
And then bring it to rehearsal. And then we usually side read that. we are, I mean, I used to be a pretty good sight reader, now not that much, but within Humankind I have to keep like my skills because it's difficult to read.
Yeah.
Then we just sight read it several times and then start to decide like, okay, this bass part maybe should be different, or like Pablo came up with some idea, oh, maybe the flute should be, but I know that he doesn't write with the flute. He just sits down and writes.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's why the process of rehearsal is probably as much important as the writing, because you have to check that it works and make
You're like refining it after the fact.
So there is a bit of workshopping then, even though he writes quickly.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot of workshopping. Yeah, and usually also about like how to the whole mood or vibe of the song, because sometimes he writes something and we realized while playing that it has to go much slower. There's constant tempo changes in it, so carefully notated. So sometimes it's like, oh, this should be different, maybe slower, faster, and repeat until you find the right one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have a just in terms of some of the improvised sections, are there ever like specific instructions, like only use this pitch material, or is it always like up to the improviser?
Okay, when we play live as a duo, there's probably like less than 1% of improvisation, because even the solos are like not written, but we always do the same solos when we play duo. It's more like really, and the sections that are more like feel like free improvised, they are not that free improvised. Maybe we free improvise that in the rehearsal, but then get fixed and we just play this as it is.
Like after
Pablo
rehearsing,
likes even do his flute solos exactly the same, or 99% the same.
Wow.
But that's like a metal idea. Like, you go to a Slayer concert, they play the same solo always.
Yeah.
And that's great. I like it.
I mean, I've heard that, I think I've talked about this before on this podcast, but like if you listen to alternate takes from like Milestones or something, like Miles will play like 78% the same solo as before, just slightly different phrasing, like totally. They've thought it through. But that, I mean, listening to this music, I would never think that, because all the playing, the flute solos are extremely virtuosic and creative, and they feel like they have all this levity and freeness, and especially the interplay between you two. So that's really fascinating to hear that you've just kind of like dialed in what you want to do and just do it that way. That's incredible.
It's not like, but I mean, of course, I know what you mean. It's not like that he prepares the solo. Probably it's not so much like this, but after rehearsing so much, some things start to get like crystallized. It's like, okay, I know that Pablo is going to do this phrase, so we just adapt to each other, and it's almost always the same once you play it live several times. And I think it also made sense because since the music is so complex and it's difficult physically to play, at least I get really tired.
Yeah.
If you have to really think about the solo in the moment, I don't think it's realistic. I think it's better to have the idea, I don't know, maybe in just like being real terms, no?
Yeah. I mean that does make sense, and I do appreciate the consistency with like that is like a common metal approach is just Absolutely. To have a solo, like not improvise one.
Yeah,
but what Mark said, even in jazz records, that's not that uncommon. I think that to have at least maybe not that exactly the same solo, but I think it's good to have a general idea or a blueprint.
Yeah, when I've been improvising on gigs over like tonal music, that it's usually original compositions of other people recently, but I find that more and more I've been spending more time working out very specific ideas and bringing those and working with them and using them as like, I guess, motives and messing around with them more and more recently. I mean, not for free improvised gigs, of course, but when I know that I have like, an open section, it could be up to around 2 minutes. I feel like I want to be kind of a bit more concise these days, but I don't know. I'm not sure what caused that change. I think it's just how I want to like represent myself and who I'm playing with and all that,
It reminds me of a story when I was studying, and Dave Holland came to do a kind of workshop or masterclass, something at the school. And I wasn't at the workshop, but I was at the concert that he did. And he played, I don't remember which tune it was, Homecoming, one of the tunes that he recorded solo like 20 years ago, no? And I remembered very well the record. And when I was at the concert, I said, wow, this is pretty similar to exactly the same solo as it's in the record. And then with another bass teacher, we just check it out. And it was like really, really, well, as you said, 80% the same kind of ideas. Wow. And maybe the record was like 15, I don't remember exactly, but something like 20 years ago. But it was so cool. It was incredible, absolutely amazing. But then you understand to keep such a high level of like, I mean, super creative, amazing, but you have to have some ideas that you've worked over and you keep. It makes sense.
Totally.
Right on. So I have to ask you then about the notation. Firstly, I would love to see some of it. And secondly,
if you give me just 1 minute, I'm back here and I can go to take. Yes, you want?
I'm particularly curious about like maybe seeing like Blue Skin from the first album.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let me give me just 20 seconds and I'm back here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's possible.
Cool.
Yeah. No problem.
Espera.
Up.
Uh-huh.
Is this the... Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see this too. Where is...
My tooth.
Okay, I'm here.
Cool.
Even less because I was practicing it yesterday, so I have them here.
Oh, cool.
So this is like how... For example, I don't know if there's enough light here, but you can really see it's totally conventional.
Oh, hand notated
writing.
Too.
Yeah, everything is hand notated. That's like Godspeed. Let me look for Blue Skin because that's a composition of mine, so it should be here.
Ooh.
I always do handwritten, so I'm not sure. Maybe I lost it. But yes, as you can see, it's everything. Pretty conventional writing. I always write like conventional writing. Yeah, this is Blue Skin. What's over you? This is my original. I don't know if there's something.
Yeah, I can see.
You can see more or less. It even has the original names. That was. It's totally stupid. Penguins vampires. That means like vampire penguins, but. Anyway, it was the working title. And yeah.
Yeah.
But as you see, there's like a little mending here in red. Like if it was like a school work. But that's all. Mostly of it was just written.
So wait, that's what we're looking at is the bass part?
No. It's like the
Let me.
No, it's both parts, and then we just.
I can't see. I just can't see the edges of the page, I guess.
Sorry. No, that's in.
Oh, okay. All right. So.
Yeah, and there's some chords on the top, so I don't remember how that I thought. I think this part is Pablo's part that I've written, and then it's like I didn't even write my own part because I knew that. So, but it's mostly parallel writing.
Yeah. So I'm curious about the one section that is like there's like a kind of phasing in this song.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Where Pablo, it's interesting. It's an interesting phasing because it's a little different. Like Pablo just slows down and you stay the same.
Oh, sorry, I haven't listened to that one for a long time, and I don't remember which part is it.
Here, I'll play it real quick.
Yeah, let's listen.
This is one of my favorite songs of y'all's.
Okay, now I
fantastic.
remember.
Yeah.
So
I remember.
fantastic, man.
It's this part. It's A2. I don't know if you can see it now, but it's not written the phasing
Okay.
because the phrase in particular is this one. Sorry, the camera, I can't see myself.
Yeah.
But the fact is that the phasing wasn't written, but we practiced a lot this part. I remember we practiced the kind of shifting. Pablo is an amazing rhythm player. He plays, I mean, his rhythmic control is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I was at that time I was obsessed with practicing those Carnatic rhythms and those Indian things of like quintuplets, triplets, and sept. I was really obsessed with that at that time. And I remember in this tune I was trying to play with this kind of pop up pop up pop up pop up pop up. Like it's not a fixed matter. It keeps on changing.
Yes.
I'm explaining myself terribly now, but you know what I'm talking more or less.
So it's not a steady syncopation. There's a skip in the syncopation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's constant skips. And then the idea was that Pablo was just like playing it slower, but keeping with the same subdivision and the same like the same shape, like as if you would do electronically, no, with a computer or something.
Yeah.
Like, stretching. That was like the idea. I remember we rehearsed that a lot, and we played live this tune with this phasing effect. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Difficult but cool.
So on this recording, is there overdubbed bass? Because you have, I mean, there has to be, right? Or you're not using a pedal or something?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they're not. There were like some overdubs, but mostly very few overdubs actually.
Yeah.
I don't know the term in English when you do a take and you just change a couple of notes or change
like a punch in.
Exactly, a punch in. There were some punch ins at some point, I remember, but mostly because some notes skip or something, but very minimal actually. And we remember that we recorded live, both of us, and then I don't know if I overdub over Pablo's line. I mean, it wasn't like live recorded, but we were playing all the time the song from top to bottom, so it wasn't like sections and stitching it together.
So you did full takes.
Yeah.
There's a part where you have you're playing with your finger, and then you hear a low note bowed.
Yeah. This part exactly. This is one of the overdubs. That's a drone in the lower part. Yeah, but mostly those kinds of overdubs, really minimal.
What is the notation for that part? I'm curious. Like, did you what would you write for yourself into like those when the vocals are happening and it's kind of free, open?
Because I wouldn't write anything. There's like that kind of low drone.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
You mean? And then there's those beep pop, right?
Yeah.
There was those phrases. I'm looking for. That's not really interesting because it's the flute part, original flute part in the section C.
Oh.
I think those are some of the parts that were like workshopped while we rehearsed. We just changed stuff.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was here. Sorry?
No.
Keep going.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, that's all. And I do a lot that kind of low the tuning drones, so it's part of my language. So I don't even like. I know what to. I mean, it's easy. So.
So did you come up with the lyrics for this one?
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that? If you don't mind?
No, it just talks about the goddess Kali, the Indian goddess of Kali. Because I think it makes sense because I was obsessed with this kind of South Indian stuff, and
yeah.
Actually, the lyrics is not like anecdotic. I mean, I thought about that and they had the idea, but they were done during the recording. Because as I said at the beginning, it was another title and another idea.
Yeah.
But at the moment felt like, oh, that's so Indian. We should make like Indian lyrics about something
cool,
religious. And that's it.
Oh, that makes sense. And can I go back to the rhythm thing that y'all were just talking about just a second ago? Because you were talking about just like displacing the same rhythmic idea, like a da 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 or da 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 da, or like doing additive and subtractive ideas.
Yeah.
And this is something that that you were learning from like Southern classical Indian music, or?
Yeah. It was mostly intuitively. I mean, I mentioned before Vasco Trilla is a good friend of mine, an amazing drummer, and a good friend of Pablo also. And he really has an amazing control of this, and he plays tabla, and he has lots of books. And we started to meet for just practicing this kind of rhythms. And it's like, okay, you play quintuplets, and I play eighth notes. Okay, just keep practicing this until it became natural.
Wow.
And they started to do that kind of. I mean, it's so much Indian as also studying the Messiaen book. You know, the language Olivier Messiaen. Language demon technique. How do you say it? I suppose it's like
the language of my
technique of my musical language.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah,
I believe
and
so.
There he explains all those techniques. He starts with I don't know how to say that in English. When you have a note.
The modes of limited transposition, I think.
No, the rhythmic thing. No, that's the other stuff. But he talks about the rhythmic things, and he starts with, I don't know the term in English. When you have let's say a half note, and you put a point. What's the name of this when it makes
just
longer?
Dotted half.
We say dotted.
Of course, the dotted. Sorry, the dot. So
okay.
So he starts to write in Spanish is puntillo. It's like the point. So when he starts to write simple phrases and add a dot to every one of the notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it gets proportionally longer, but keeping the rhythmic shape. Like, it's always the same proportion.
Right.
Seems very easy, but if you do it like with 8 notes and then 16th notes mixed, it's really fucked up. It's very difficult to read.
Yes.
So Messiaen starts to, and he says that he learned that from some kind of Indian. So I think I also took it from this book that I was studying.
That's interesting. I'm unfamiliar with this book. I need to check it out.
It's amazing. It's really good.
Bob, I sent you a copy of it, PDF in the chat years ago.
Really?
So it's around. Yeah.
See, now, I mean, it's been a lot of years without checking it out. I think he talks, I'm sure about the dotted phrases and about the rhythmic. Maybe I've changed it in my mind, after so many time working on the ideas, maybe I'm putting stuff that's not there, or maybe it's better there than what I'm saying.
What is the name of the book again?
Technique de mon langage. Exactly.
The technique of my musical language. And I'll send it to you again, Bob. I have an account somewhere that has it.
Okay.
So.
Okay. No, I found it. So, cool.
But it's interesting, like notating that, because coming from Indian music, I think that would be more vocal because they use the bowls, right?
Totally.
Like the vocalization to express that. So it's just like, if you have a taka taka taka, and then if you put it on the dot, then it's just like turning that into 3.
Exactly.
Again, so taka taka taka, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. But if you do notate it and try to look at it and sing it that way, it's way more tricky, I think, in my opinion, visually represented. But that's a cool and simple idea to just work with rhythm, right? Yeah. You just write a phrase and then put a dot on everything.
Totally, I did it a lot. I don't have it here, but I had lots of notebooks with exercises that I wrote for myself. And I was doing this kind of ideas with like Black Sabbath riffs or like very simple idea. But no. Yeah. I mean, it's very simple because you can sing it, it's like, and just adding dots or stuff to everything. Or like every repetition, one thing that I like to do a lot is like every repetition add like a semi-quaver, 16th note silence at the end, but just keeping addition or subtracting. So every repetition is slightly different. But if you do it with a Led Zeppelin riff, it's more fun and maybe it's easier because it grooves and I used to do that a lot.
I love this idea, man. Like Beach Boys or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. Huh.
Yeah, it's funny that like I keep thinking about Cryptopsy because Cryptopsy is a big inspiration for me. And I hear them doing that a lot with their riffs, like in their compositions. Will be like, they'll be doing a riff and then just like drop one note or something.
Totally, all the time.
Is it like the album Whisper Supremacy was like one of the first metal albums that like I was like really like, whoa.
But many other bands, also Cannibal Corpse, were doing that kind of stuff in the Bleeding or some of these records. They do that kind of I can't remember now that the song, but the same riff, it's shorter or longer depending on the repetition. Or
Yeah.
I mean, I think that many death metal bands were working with this idea.
And of course, there's Meshuggah, who's at probably
Of course.
Heyo.
Who's probably the closest thing to Indian music that's not Indian music that I'm aware of.
Interesting.
Yeah, but Meshuggah is it's probably more Indian because it's less riffy and more like pure rhythm. No, it's more like riffy. I don't know what to say that. No, but it's less death metal. That Cryptopsy is more like melodic and has more of this. I always saw Meshuggah more like a kind of purely Indian or like pure rhythm.
Yeah, particularly some of the earlier music where it'll just be a single power chord, and
exactly.
Yeah.
A single power chord, and what you're talking about specifically is what they're doing rhythmically, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they do this technique of like they'll have a syncopated riff going across a measure, and then all of a sudden there'll be a drop like from the pattern that is being syncopated. It'll be suddenly shortened or lengthened, and then it'll go back or something. So it'll like, so your expectation of that syncopation is adjusted, you know?
Interesting. You're talking about like Chaos Sphere days, kind of?
Yeah.
That one's the greatest. It's the one that I like the most, Chaos Sphere, probably.
Me too.
It's totally this.
Yeah. I think it would be cool. Feel free to reject this idea, but I think it would be cool if you guys sold the notation for your music, because I think there's a lot of people that are like in music school and like looking for something to do at their concert, and like it would be cool. Like this would be great music to play in a chamber music setting.
I should talk to Pablo about this.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people, I've seen this model more and more. They'll offer their scores for sale on Bandcamp. Like if you go to Pi Recordings, I don't know if you're interested in what they do. You know, like Anna, I'm blanking right now, but she just put up all of her scores. Anna Weber, I believe, and she writes really amazing complex music. And I think some of Liberty Element stuff is up there, and you know, it's just like it's a cool resource. And
totally. No, I think it's a good idea, and we never came. I think that maybe Paulo thought about that sometimes, but I don't remember we never did it. But it's a good idea. Yeah. Even as a technical exercise, it's great just to try to play his tunes.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely play through all that.
If I was in music school and I played either the bass or flute, and you were selling your music, I would be all about. I would get it.
I would, but yeah. I mean, the flute stuff would lay pretty well on vibraphone, I think.
Yeah, probably.
We should do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Bob, let's cover them.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm curious about your relationship with Colin Marston.
Oh yeah.
Because did he master the album or mix it? The first one?
The first one, he mixed it and mastered it.
Okay.
And he also collaborated with a short snippet before the last track that he did some kind of electronic manipulation of stuff. And he mastered the second one.
Oh, okay.
But,
yeah, so how did y'all meet?
It started... Well, actually, it was like we were mixing the Self-Extinction album, and I mean it was going okay, but we had some troubles, and it wasn't working out. Sometimes you just get stuck, you know, like in the mixing. And it seems very simple to mix that kind of flute and bass, but it was really difficult to. That it had to have some kind of punch and we weren't getting that. So we started to think about, who should mix these or who should contact? And we both thought, Colin Marston is the guy who does all not all, but many of the great extreme metal mixing and mastering nowadays. So I just written an email to Colin, and he answered, and we started to show him the stuff, and he was enthusiastic. Oh, it's great. He really liked that. and all of his mixing ideas were like amazing, and suddenly it was just starting to work out. And I think he's really responsible of much of the. I mean, the sound, especially the first album, is really particular. I like it a lot, and his job is amazing, totally amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it is really clean, like very dynamic, but it has like a strong sound where it needs to have it, you know.
Yeah, I think there's like it's fun because we were like working on the flute sound, and he sent some like snippets and some samples and from one track, and it was like, oh, I thought about that kind of sound for this solo, and it was like a slightly more dirty or like than the previous one. And Pablo, when he listened to that, said, oh, I want the whole record to sound like this. Like I want. It's so good that's just exactly the idea that I was looking for, and he just get it really fast.
Wow.
And with the bass, he's a bass player, so the bass was really fast. He got an amazing sound.
Yeah. Cool.
Pablo plays standard flute, right?
He also plays alto flute, but with INHUMANKIND, all of it's standard flute.
Okay.
Right. Cool.
We tried once to do one of, I think that Blueskin actually, we tried once with alto flute, but we prefer just to keep the standard flute more aggressive, and we like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So after you put out this record, it seems like then you started your first release on Bandcamp, the Blautauben album. Was that later that year? Is that the correct timeline?
Yeah. This I'm not sure because this one that solo. I mean, the solo playing was way before INHUMANKIND. I was doing solo stuff almost from the beginning. When I started to improvise, it was like the natural way of. I don't know exactly why, but I started doing this. There's a previous solo record in Discordian Records, a label from Barcelona, but. It's I don't like it that much. It's a good album.
Discordians
like
from Barcelona?
Yeah, Discordians from Barcelona.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, and much of the people in the label, they are all around Barcelona.
Oh, cool.
So I don't remember when Blautauben came. I think it was just after, because Colin Marston did the mixing also. So it has to be after INHUMANKIND, but really close to it. And that's it. It's just close to it. Maybe some months after, but it was recorded previously, I think.
Okay.
I would love to hear some of this. This is a really remarkable record, and if we could listen to a bit, I'd love to talk.
This is my favorite record of your solo efforts.
Yeah,
it's really incredible, and I gotta say, this is like amazing solo playing, and I have a lot of questions about kind of like the miking and all that, and your approach overall. But can we listen a little bit?
Yeah. So I made a little medley of a couple of songs.
Okay, a mixtape
to make like a little preview, you know, because a lot of the songs are pretty long, so we won't play the whole thing here, but get just a taste of this album, which is got a lot of different. You explore a lot of different sound territories. So, okay.
fantastic.
Thank you.
So can I ask just a couple questions about your setup for that?
Okay.
Are you using volume pedals and amplification?
No.
Or is this acoustic entirely?
Yeah, but probably there's some limiting in the mixing that Colin did, but it was recorded acoustic. I never amplify. I don't never amplify. I never use any kind of effect.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
So it sounds like it seems like then, because there is distortion happening, right?
Some of the distortion is from overpressure with the bow, and I think sometimes I use a little, you say peck, the thing that you use for the clothes to.
Yeah, like a clothespin for like.
Oh, I see.
Like preparing the string.
Exactly. So
yeah.
So a little metallic thing on it, so it makes that kind of high pitched clack 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 clack, and then overpressure with the bowing, and then you can have that kind of distortion. And I usually use a lot of like multiphonics, so it distorts it, some kind of harmonic strange interaction.
Yeah, a lot of this seems. I mean, because I'm more familiar, I think, like with. Having played a lot with Lisa Metzacappa and then Mark Dresser, kind of that world, they both use pedals and amplification. So what if any would be sort of the precedent for like who are you listening to and looking up to when you're approaching this? If I can ask.
Okay, I wasn't listening. I hardly ever listen bass players. It wasn't like I was listening a lot of. I remember that Okyung Lee, the Korean cello player, I don't know if I pronounced right, Okyung Lee. It was a big influence. She has a record called Gil that's amazing. And she also plays without any kind of electronics. But I was mostly listening to like noise music, or I was thinking about this kind of aesthetic. Like Japanese noise, or especially Ami Yoshida and that kind of thing. But I don't know. Yeah, mostly this. No bass players.
Yeah, and just finding ways to achieve these sounds with
totally
using your own limitations and everything on the bass.
That was the whole idea. Actually, it was. I'm like how to say that? Really. I mean, I never use amps. I try to avoid it totally. Better like a microphone or something like this. And I never use electronics. And if there's some manipulation of it, it's always like not while I'm playing. It's in the mixing moment or something. And then it's like, oh fuck, I don't know how to say that in English. But there's some of the EPs in my Bandcamp, and there's obviously some of pitch shift reverb on the bass. But of course, it's openly an effect. It's not like I tried the bass to sound different. It's like, okay, I have the sound of the bass, and I add something. But I never play with it. And live, I always play like acoustic, and I only use the bow and very simple manipulations.
Yeah, so you're a purist within your own limitations on exactly. The bass. Yeah, I saw in a video you do have a 57 jammed in your bridge or something like that. That's maybe about as far as that'll go, right, for amplification? Or that's just for recording's sake? Right?
I use it. I always, when I have to amplify, I use a 57. Yeah, it's my favorite mic.
I've never seen anyone do that before, but because most people use like a little like a transducer, clip-on or something like.
Yeah. Or the DPA, so that's another typical one.
DPAs they're nice, but they're pretty pricey, right? They're like the Cork.
Exactly.
The Cork plugin, yeah.
And in fact, this record, all of my solo records from this onwards are recorded always with an SM57. And in this particular one, Blaue Tauben, it was recorded with that's real, an SM57 in the bridge, as you said, put it there. An ADK condenser is like a Chinese brand, not really good. Well, I mean, it's fine, but it's not a Neumann. It's like a and that's all. It was going to a Mackie mixer, and just from the Mackie mixer to yeah, that was it.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, I like visualize when I was listening to it. I thought you like had like multi mics coming from all these different directions.
No. No, it was totally 2 microphones.
Like listening to it in
beautiful.
headphones, like you can hear that it is a very good like stereo image. It doesn't sound mono.
But that's probably mixing
Yeah.
thing. They're calling it some
Probably some
clever mixing.
Yeah.
very cool.
But it's just 2 microphones, very cheap ones, and with a cheap mixer, and yeah.
I love what Ferran Fages?
Ferran Fages. Ferran Fages.
And this person is from the Phicus trio, yeah. A really great little blurb on your album. About this. He writes very clear.
I remember. It's nice. This one, yeah.
So this is all about inspired from poetry from Georg Trakl, and
well, it's similar to what we talked before about Blueskin. It's like I was working on the solo stuff, and I was doing like some. I was playing live, and I was usually at home. I used to play a lot of solo, like just for myself. Yeah. So I just wanted to do this. This was the second album, the Blauet album. I did the previous one that never came out because I didn't like it after recording it, so I just ditched it.
Oh,
and I was playing this, and I was also playing with Phicus, and Ferran is a good friend of mine, and he's slightly older than me, and I used to like look to him like, oh, Ferran like knows a lot of stuff, and it's an amazing musician. So we used to meet on the afternoons and just play and talk about music and hang out there. So he just offered to record the solo it's in his place. It's not in a studio. It's like he has a little place, and we just set the mix and started to record that. And I was thinking about giving some kind of idea. I never like it to just put some generic name and like, okay, a solo album. Like I prefer to give a kind of shape to it. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
And since I was reading a lot of Trakl poetry, and I had that idea of do some kind of different chapters, and so it just came out like this.
Yeah.
There's no much more about
so it. So this is the poet, and then you have the album about Fred Astaire, and then the third is the first one that you, or like the first one you never released, right?
Which one? There's the first one that I never. No, the second one that I never released, and the first one it's in Discordian Records.
Oh,
the first solo. It's pretty different. There's even a couple of songs, like songs with melody in this.
What's it called?
Els gats gordos també tenen problemes. That's a tricky name. It's in Catalan. It means fat cats do also have trouble.
It will take me a while to find that in here. But
later I can send
I found there was one album I found on here that was like a free improv album with you and some other people.
Discordian, there's a lot of stuff there that I play. Because they organize also like weekly free improvised concerts, and I used to play there a lot.
Oh.
So it's an amazing... El Pricto is the guy who takes care of it. And every week there's concerts, and he makes like recordings, and there's a whole scene around Discordian Records.
Cool. Yeah, I followed that label. I did not know it was in Barcelona. But.
I like that. One thing that I'm seeing that's kind of going across the board here is working duo with other people, just like getting together, playing duo, talking about music. It seems like you've done that with Pablo, and then you were doing that with Ferran as well.
Yeah.
And I love that way of practicing with people. I mean, first of all, it's easier to get together, you know. It's just to straight up to schedule. I mean, but you tend to just dig into pieces in a different way. You take them apart, put them back together, and take your time and just have a nice conversational aspect to the creative process. You know, I really like that way of working, and it seems like this is something that you do fairly regularly as well.
Yeah, I try to, maybe lately not that much, for like I have more work in my day job or like some issues, but I used to do that a lot. And when I was starting to play live and free improvisation live, or starting to be more interested in these areas, I mostly learned that way, like meeting people and just talking. There was one, I remember, it was like 10 years ago, something like this, or 9. I played every Thursday in a bar called Rubados in Barcelona. It's like the place where they used to do weekly free improvised concerts with great musicians there always. And was Tom Chant, a saxophone player, maybe you know him, British saxophone player, amazing. And we used to play together there. And after the concert, that was like at 8 p.m., something like this, we used to then leave the instruments and stay in the bar until like, I don't know, 2 a.m. or something, like 5 hours or something, just talking. And since he played with much of my heroes, it was like, oh, Tom, talk about Eddie Prevost, what he does, or tell me about whoever, John Edwards, what kind of bass John Edwards, I don't know, just questions for hours, no? And it was the best learning. I think it's probably the best learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It feels so nice when you get to ask people like that. And also, you learn too that they're just people.
Yeah.
Even though you grew up listening to them or something like this, And
it's mostly
good to remember.
Yeah, mostly are nice people. If you just ask, usually they want to talk about it. I mean, it makes sense because they dedicate their life to do this, so they like to talk about it.
Yeah, totally.
Man, it seems like you have a really cool thing going in Barcelona. I feel like if you came out to the Bay Area where I am and played a few of the series and met some of the people, you would feel right at home. Like it seems like there's a similar.
Oh, I'd love to.
At some point, when it works out, if you find yourself coming California way,
of course,
reach out to us, man.
I'll try to. I was there when I was a kid, but in vacation. I haven't been there for like 20 years. I would love to go there and play something.
Yeah.
You have these bands. There's Phicus.
Phicus.
Yeah, is that so? You have a couple releases with that project.
There's more than a couple, but they are scattered around in many labels.
I see.
It's the project with Ferran, we talked before, Ferran Fages, and Vasco Trilla, this drummer that I told that we used to. I mean, it's a close friend, so we just talk daily, and we have many projects together. And yeah, it's like the three of us. How many releases we have? Like 4 or 5, probably.
Ah, okay.
But maybe you just, I send you the Astral Spirits ones. That probably is the...
Yeah.
This one is I think it's the best also.
Yeah, it seems fairly recent as well. This was from 2020.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can we play just a bit of this? Because this is free improv with a group, right? Yeah. So I picked a little excerpt from the track HGCL, which I believe is mercury chloride.
Yeah. I hope.
All right, so here we go. funny. I picked out this sample like a week before, and I spent all this week in New Orleans, and I saw a band that is very, very similar to this in New Orleans.
Which one?
Like this kind of improvisation where it was like guitar, upright bass, and drums, and they were doing. We were in this venue. There has like a very similar sound, but yeah. So
cool.
I mean, what is this the type of thing that you if we look at the song titles, is there any inspiration that goes into the improvisation or any kind of score or anything like that? Or
well, no, they are a posteriori decisions. But with Phicus, we have because the first album we did, it was previous to this. It was called Plum. That means in English, it's you say lead, L-E-A-D, lead. Okay. The metallic element. How do you pronounce this?
Lead.
Yeah.
Lead. Sorry, lead.
Yeah,
that's it. So we started to think. I was thinking, oh, maybe we should like keep this idea of the table of the elements, like whatever, and explore that. And so this one, it's from Solid, this record, and we did its sibling album that's called Liquid. It's in triptych tapes. Which has like the names are Elements of Liquid, well, whatever. It's just keeping with this idea, but there's no real inspiration further than this.
So how do you guys work together? I mean, what do you think about when you're playing?
We used to rehearse a lot. I mean, we just meet at least once a week, and usually just jam, and we got some ideas. Usually it's like, but mostly like ideas that you develop through the whole rehearsal.
Yeah.
And we used to put names, but just working titles to it. Like, oh, let's practice this kind of section that sounds like whatever, like. And after several sessions of work, it just is another thing, it transforms. And we got that idea of the band that we like it to do very heavy stuff on one side, and then all the very drony and ambient-ish on the other, and just keep it separate. That's why the albums are really like a schizophrenic. One, it's really long and quiet, and the other, it's loud and disgusting, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But we just rehearsed a lot, and when we were rehearsing, we just thought, okay, today we are rehearsing the heavy stuff, or we are playing the soft stuff. And usually Ferran carries a different guitar for it, because he has like one guitar for the loud stuff and one for the more soft stuff.
Oh, interesting.
He's amazing, and he has like an amazing control of the instrument. So he just tunes a different tuning, different instrument, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the playing and the improvising together, to me, feels very patient. So I mean, I it makes sense that would come out of regular rehearsal and just like saying, okay, we're going to play this right now, and then just going for it. So when you document it, it doesn't feel to me like there's any sense of needing to find an ending right away or anything like that. You're just letting the music exist, which is really cool. And a lot of times I feel like people are a little scared to let music exist in that way. They're often rushing to find an ending or just uncomfortable with letting a moment live like that,
Totally. That's something that I think a lot about it, because, and we talk about it a lot with Vasco, with Vasco Trilla, the drummer, when we play together, is that I used to rush a lot and use a lot of different ideas all the time. And when I was listening back to myself, that I tried to avoid, but when I had to do it, I was always like, oh, I play too much. It's like, it's too busy, everything. And it's like there are too many not that good ideas or something that it's obviously rushed, as you said. Now it's like, oh, this ending is just, it felt like an ending, so we just ended, and it doesn't make any sense when you listen to it back.
Oh.
So we were rehearsing, we were really conscious about, okay, let's think about a timeline, how long it's going to be this, or...
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
I mean, in this one there weren't a specific timelines, but in others we did have approximate, like, okay, let's this section try to make it 10 minutes at least, and just practice until.
Yeah. When I was living in the Bay Area, which I don't live there anymore, in the San Francisco Bay Area. I used to have a band where like the only constraint was time. So we would set up. It would be like,
That's
you know, we actually used physical timers, like sand timers. So we would just like have different ones, and we would flip it over. Like one would be like 2 minutes, one would be like 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes or whatever. So like we flip them over all at the start, and then so like one would run out, and then we change section, you know. So like it keeps us.
Yes.
FKA twigs.
Yeah, or FKA birds. FKA birds. Yeah.
Birds.
FYI, we called it FYI birds after a while.
FYI birds. That's right.
We changed the name though, but it was good. It was a good. It was good to like when you have like a section that's like 5 minutes long, and it's like you can see how much time you have left. It's better to. It was an interesting exercise to be like, you know, no, don't try to develop anything. Don't try to like push the boundaries of what you're doing. Just keep it going, you know?
And it's also very cool that you have this release on Astral Spirits. It's I really like that label, and we have some friends on there, like, you know, John McCowan and Aaron Novick play with those folks, and there's a lot Jacob Wick that
Carl's
and also
there.
it's just like Tatsuya Nakatani, Ava Mendoza.
Amazing.
Yeah, man, it's really heavy company all around. So congrats on that.
Yeah, we
that's
are
awesome.
releasing another one next year. I think it's already recorded, but we are looking for a schedule to release it, but also in Astral Spirits. So yeah. I'm really excited about it.
Cool.
I think it's even better than this one.
Excellent.
Oh, cool. I mean, this record's amazing. Did they do the design right in-house? I love their aesthetic that they have. Okay.
It's incredible. The designer, Jaime, is amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, all these, you just look at their Bandcamp page, it's incredible. Beautiful. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. Beautiful playing. Love that.
Thank you.
So getting back to Colin Marston, should we talk about Tholos Gateway?
Okay.
When did this project come about? Because this has the Basco Tria from.
Yeah, it's the same one from Phicus.
Yeah, from Phicus, and
many other. I think it's something that Mark said previously about this kind of relation between people, like playing together, rehearsing, or doing stuff. And I have quite a lot of projects, but many of them are with the same people, just like different permutations of the same dozen people.
Yeah.
They are actually my friends, so I then just go to drink a beer with them. And with Basco, we played together in Phicus, but we played together in like hundreds of bands and just like did thousands of gigs with different people, and we are now working with many other musicians. So we usually, I don't know how came the idea, but it was like very natural. Like, we should do another trio with somebody else. And since Colin Marston did the INHUMANKIND mixing, and he did the mixing for my solo album, and he did the mastering for Basco's solo drum record, it was like, we should just call Colin, and we just write him, and it was, yeah, guys, sure, I love your playing, so let's try to do some kind of distance collaboration. And that's it.
You guys have...
Yeah, but it was like natural, just talking.
You didn't actually ever meet up in person.
No.
Wow.
That's fun.
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
But I like a lot to work this way. There's something interesting in it because you can... Because with Tholos Gateway, it's also improvised. I mean, not that much, but Basco and myself, we record together, and we just rehearsed a little bit, and we did some ideas. And then Colin recorded on top of it. And then he sent some ideas, and we just recorded like this kind of ping pong thing going on.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's like you can, I don't know how to say that, but you can think backwards. It's like you did something, and then somebody else is just listening to it and adding his ideas, so you can then rework it from an, I don't know, you know what I mean, no? More or less that kind of. I think it's interesting in improvisation.
Yeah, it's
because usually we just record and forget. No, it's like, oh, I played this and okay.
It's interesting that like for Phicus you have it's basically put together by means of like all this rehearsal, and it's basically improvised live, and this is more of a recording project.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who is Jarbo?
Jarbo is a singer. She was singer with Swans for some time, and she's a pretty. If you've explored, I'm not. I mean, I knew her, but I'm not that familiar with her records. But she has a long career, and it's like an icon in this kind of scene. And I was talking with friends. Oh, Jarbo is singing in your record. How did it happen? Oh, I don't know. Just like Colin asked, and she. I know that easy.
That's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's great. I really like Tholos Gateway because it's so bizarre. Everything it's so different than the rest of bands I mean, it's not like a proper band, but it's a project. I don't know what else to say, but
can I play just a bit of the track with Jarbo on it?
Yeah.
Do you recall what percussion sound is producing the like scattering noise in this?
And I think in this, Vasco is doing some of his the acoustic percussion. It's Vasco Trilla, all of it, and he plays a lot with different kinds of bells and adding vibrating stuff on it. And he also has a lot of like different sticking techniques with these kind of bells. And so it's just like him, and he uses also a lot of mechanical devices, like I don't know what kind, but something that moves, and he puts it inside of the bell, and he does something. He makes this kind of rhythmic figures. You know, like it sounds like mechanic, but it's acoustic. I don't know. It's like a mixture. And then in this record, the whole synths and electronics is Colin Marston playing. Yes, but all the acoustic percussion is Vasco Trilla.
Wow, that's a really very dark almost. This.
Yeah, it's a dark ambient record. It purely, yeah. But it was really cool to do it, and we are working on the second one. It should came out soon, I hope, but it's almost finished.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's it has like the visual aesthetic of this. The way the album looks is kind of like a black metal thing almost. You know,
10%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was almost like mandatory. It has to have that kind.
Yeah.
And it's like, because it was really curious, because I was when we were talking about the idea behind the like concept, I suggested something about like Greek things, you know, like the Iliad, and I was reading a lot of that. And then talking with Colin, said, "Oh, my I think his mother or somebody was like a Latin teacher. I mean, he was into classical literature, so he actually Colin Marston is an expert in Greek culture. So we actually felt like it's amazing. So he was really into it." And it was like, okay, we can keep that kind of Greek idea, but with Gothic letters and black metal aesthetic. So he just took care of it. It's Colin's idea, the whole cover and yeah. But I love it. It's very nice. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, should we dive in? I want to talk about the new INHUMANKIND record.
Yes.
Also.
Yes. It's so good.
You guys have been playing shows the whole time, more or less, or?
Yeah, I mean, excepting during the pandemic, that we did a couple of concerts just when there were activity, but previously to that we were playing pretty much a lot. And actually the pandemic just hit when we were starting to do some Europe dates with INHUMANKIND. I think we played in Budapest like 2 or 3 weeks before the lockdown. And we got the Lisbon date, and we got something else. So we were starting to really move around. But previously, we've been playing a lot in Spain and in Barcelona. And so we've been playing some of the tunes of the new album, because they were already written some time ago. So when we got to the studio, we've been playing them live quite a lot.
Okay, so that's good. That so like gives them even more time to like have fleshed out. Yeah. So it's interesting. Like you have some like extra instrumentation on the other album, but it's like almost every track on this one has vocals and piano.
Yeah. That's a very different approach. Yeah.
But when you guys play live, it's just the two of you.
It depends. There's like 2 different formats mostly. We used to play as a duo, and we usually do this format. And I think it's like more raw, more aggressive, and it's cool. I like it a lot. But then in bigger gigs that we got, we used to have the 2 singers, Marta and Celeste, the 2 singers that sing in the album.
Yeah.
And they just sing their parts, and it's amazing. It's really beautiful. Just flute, bass, and 2 voices. And with Marco, who's doing the pianos, we never played a concert with him, but I played concerts with Marco in other projects, and Pablo and Marco are close friends. They studied together, and they knew each other a lot.
Just to clarify, so
Marco Mezquida and Marta Valero.
Marta Valero is a backing vocal, and Marco Mezquida
is piano player.
Is a piano player. Marta and Marco.
But you play with
like the female vocals.
So wait, who does the extreme vocals?
Sorry?
Who does the extreme vocals?
In this album is Eric Baulenas, a singer from Barcelona, a proper metal singer. There's extreme. There's one track is Marcos Martins, a singer from Portugal. He's friend of Pablo. This is a Pablo connection, but he also sings in some projects of Voidhanger labels. So it was just a natural match. And then I'm not sure if Pablo does some of the vocals, and not in album. Live he usually does the extreme vocals, but in this album I think we just took. Eric did all of them, who is also singing in the first album.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and that's all. I think that's all that there is. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so with when you play with the vocalist live, you're playing with the singing vocalists.
Exactly, that's it. With the female, like more lyrical voices.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes sense.
And then Pablo does the extreme vocals live.
That's cool. That's such a...
It's unbelievable because he does like this super tricky stuff with the flute and then just then just keeps on playing. It's incredible.
Yeah, watching some of the video of that happening is really fascinating.
It's funny how both of you switch, because you have some really fast switches from bow to fingers as well.
Actually, lots of the rehearsals were to see like how fast we can change from bow to pizzicato and how fast Pablo can change from flute to vocals. That's actually a part. I mean, I remember rehearsing this quite a lot. And in the papers, we usually mark it like I put drop bow here, like in the specific note. And there's many parts that I am usually late, and then it's like a disaster. Because of course you have to do it really fast. It's like if if Pablo forgot to prepare the voice, because he wouldn't get it. So you have to rehearse that. It's really fun.
Wow. Yeah,
almost circus.
It's really cool to, having listened to this and just imagining it, like knowing how much intention and orchestration there is behind it is really cool. I mean, it makes a lot of sense though, because of the chamber aspect of it.
Should I play? I want to play a little bit of this track. I think it's one of our favorites here.
Yeah.
Apophis is.
This
so nasty.
Yeah,
man.
record is.
This music makes me want to write, go write music. It gets me all excited. You know what I mean? I'm just like, there's all these things. I'm just like, dude, I want to implement some of this. I mean, just that gliss that you throw in there. It's like, so good.
It was so fun to it's great. I mean, I like to listen to it. I hardly ever listen to these albums because we played live so many times, or we just rehearse them. But it's really fun to listen to it.
Yes.
It's in a way.
I agree.
Because I don't know how to say that, but there's something almost bordering like not stupid, but the whole idea, it's so over the top that it's like, okay, it doesn't make any sense. But when you're at it, it's like the whole thing is like this.
Yeah.
But it's great. Yeah, it's really interesting to listen to it.
Yes, I feel like this album is so much more complex and choppy, like so much more choppy than the
way more.
Yeah. The other one.
In fact, was like a joke between Pablo and me because because it was like the first one was pretty choppy, but when we started to rehearse the tunes for the new album, Pablo was like, okay, now we are starting to get good. I'm gonna write something more complex, but the first one is super complex. What we listened before, no?
Yeah.
And so it was really fun to see how far we can go. Even there's one of the tracks in this album, in Faust, that we still don't play it live that often because it's so tricky. At least I can't play it really at the level that it should be played. I have to practice more, I think. But I mean, it's really choppy, this one. The whole album.
Wait.
Yeah.
In Faust? Hang
Track
on.
8.
It's there, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very long tune.
Right. I know
I could play a little bit of it.
I mean, it's not like it's the most difficult. It's possibly something like personal that for me, for some reason, it's more difficult. But it has to do with its really low pitch. I mean, there's a lot of open E's in difficult fingering. I don't know. I still looking to find a way to play it easily. I mean, easily to play it like fluidly and
yeah.
Do not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know which one this is now. Okay. Sorry, I had to think of it.
I was curious. We should. Okay. I guess first question. I have a series of questions. How did you guys get in with Voidhanger? How did you get in touch with Luciano?
This is Pablo did. I think it was just like we got the first album and we were just sending over the demo just to see who was interested.
Okay.
And Luciano was really into it, like from minute one. And I think it's perfect. It's a perfect place for the album.
Yeah.
But then he was just really into releasing a second one, so it was very easy from that point on.
Yeah, I find Luciano to be an incredible person. Yeah, working with him with the Onco stuff, he's been extremely supportive.
That's great.
But so I'm just curious if this a track, the In Faust track, is that about Faust? What does In Faust mean?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes, it was Luciano's thing. He asked it for. He was doing this project about Faust. I think it never came out, or I'm not sure how it ended, but he asked us to write a piece, and that's it.
Okay, so this is he also asked me to do a Faust track, and
so the point is that we started to do it with Pablo, and then we liked it so much, the track, and we felt that it fits perfectly in the Humankind album, and we just changed some stuff to make it fit better with the whole atmosphere. But the ideas were because Luciano asked us for a Faust track.
Yeah. I think because they mentioned something earlier this year about that it coming out. I think he was waiting for someone's recording.
Okay.
Still, but
so it will probably feature a previous version of In Faust or this version. I'm not really sure now of what. Because, Pablo took care. The fact is that since when we were mixing the album, when the pandemic hit, so much of the in-person mixing was done by Pablo and the engineer. Because I live outside Barcelona, really close, but at like 20 kilometers, slightly more.
Okay.
And there was some time that we couldn't travel between because I live in a different province, so I couldn't get there for some reasons during the lockdown.
Yeah.
So just Pablo took care of it. And there are some decisions that I'm not sure if there's an alternate version of In Faust or they just reworked it and that's the definitive one.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So if this Faust album does come out, we'll be both on it then, probably.
Oh, great. Yeah. Cool. I'm looking forward to it. The idea seemed really cool.
Yeah.
I like that kind of projects with different bands and different ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a great time. I mean, I had never read read the Faust, like so I dug into reading it for this project, and it was like I didn't realize how like completely crazy it is.
The second part, especially, it's like totally fucked up.
I was just like, man. But yeah, so there's no lyrics on the Bandcamp for this one. I'm curious if they're on the internet somewhere.
Oh, I don't know. This is the kind of thing that Pablo took care. In this case, the lyrics were his, so I don't know if there are somewhere.
Oh, okay.
At least I don't know it now.
Your Faust track isn't available out yet. Are you waiting for Voidhanger?
Yeah,
to put that out.
So I have two versions of it, kind of. And so there's an album that I also have with Onkos that's going to be out, I guess, whenever, because they're backed up with for a variety of reasons with their releases. So I'm not sure when it will be released. But I have a full album that has one version that's just the instrumental with the horns, and then the kind of like more normal Onkos guitars and vocals and everything with that should be on the Faust compilation. But I don't know when either of those will be released.
Right on. Yeah. Right on. I mean, it's cool to kind of hear. I've been learning more and more about Voidhanger in general, so it's cool to hear like sort of like two perspectives at the same time about this one project. As a fly on the wall, someone who's not directly involved in that. And now I need to also dig into Faust, because Bob, you were like talking to me about it when you were going through it.
Oh yeah,
talking about how strange it is, but I haven't had any time to like dig in.
I was completely
myself.
Unprepared for how strange it is.
You should check it out, sure.
Yeah.
I was looking at the so there's like the English version, the Christopher Marlowe version, and then there's the there's also the German version. And so it's a little bit harder to find a translation of the German version. But they're both pretty wild. I think the German version's a little bit more wild though.
I think so. I think the second part of the German, it's like really fucked up.
Yeah. And I don't know how, like the translation that I was looking at, I don't know how good it is, but I don't, do you speak German? You must, right?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't speak German.
But
I just took the titles.
But you enjoy German poetry somehow?
Yeah, but I've always read that in translation.
Oh, okay.
So I know some words, and I more or less, but no, I don't speak German.
Okay.
Not even close to fluently.
Yeah, I do not either speak German.
Yeah, I can't help you fellas. Sorry, but man, not one other thing. Going back to Self-Deification.
Okay.
Y'all, because you were talking about how much more choppy and complex it is, but also there's some moments of like real beauty in there, and I personally appreciate like that y'all didn't shy away from that. You also like included a chorale.
Yeah.
Did you write that, or did you take that from like Bach or something? Do you remember?
No, that part it's Pablo's part. No, it's just written. Yeah, it's I think in the previous album there was also some moments of beauty, but probably not that openly like lyrical. And
yeah,
I don't know really if it came out naturally. Pablo usually does this kind of he has a lot of I don't know how to say that, but he has an affinity for that kind of lyrical stuff, and he's a very good singer, Pablo, very good like conventional singer, not just an extreme singer. And I think that he really wanted to add a lot of it to INHUMANKIND. But what we try to do many times is like many of the sections that have that kind of feeling of more lyrical stuff or like more classical music stuff, a really fast contrasted but a really choppy section atonal. No, usually there's that kind of, and with no transition, it's just like one thing and then the other thing.
Yeah.
And I really like this a lot, that kind of fragmented or juxtaposed stuff. No? No, and then comes the other part. The same with the piano. No, it's melodic, but then it's suddenly it just clusters and without any kind of transition between it. There's no development. It's just schizophrenic. I think there was conscious. This it was really an idea.
Awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to just ask. So this is Self-Deification. I read this other interview that I believe Pablo gave about you have self-extinction and then self-deification. So it's in some ways like this is part of a trilogy. So we have
that's it.
The extinction part is like destroying parts of yourself or something like this. Deification is like in some like worshiping yourself somehow or
yeah, and I don't know how much of it just because Pablo came up with this name, but also there's an idea with the band that we used to do is that kind of self-referencing ourselves, even if it's just an inner joke between ourselves. But there's lots of these choppy sections or stuff that references previous tunes, even if it's like very simple stuff. And I know that Pablo enjoys a lot doing that kind of inner things, and that whole idea of self-referencing. No? It's also that kind of self-deification. And I don't know if it really the title came out of this thing, but there's a lot of it in Humankind. Because since the music is so dense, it's very easy to do that kind of self-referencing or adding little cues to other stuff, even if it's really obscure. And there's a lot of many times when we are playing, it's like, oh, this chop reminds me a lot of course, it's very similar to a previous one, but maybe with some modification to it or something.
Right. Interesting. Very cool. So I'm curious about these like chorale. So I forget what song that's in.
Is it Gina?
Yeah, it's in the middle of Gunigagap, no? You're meaning this one?
Thank you.
How does how should I say this? Is there a relationship between the title of the album and like this type of juxtaposition that you've worked into this composition? Like,
interesting.
Oh, I don't know. At least not consciously for me. But okay, let me think about the question. No, I don't think so. I don't know exactly how it, because we are talking about this chorale part, and I know that Pablo, I'm not sure if originally the first time we played the composition, it was that chorale in the middle, or it was from, you know what I mean? It's like we had like two different things, but really fast.
I see.
It felt like, but it's not like we at the end we took this idea and during the recording. It was previous, but I think that we just played the tune. And I know because I have the originals around here, and it's like there's different paper, and it's like from different periods. Maybe it's just not it's not written like one and then after the other.
Yeah.
But sometimes happens that you write something and after rehearsing it once, it's perfect to add this other thing in the middle, or like or change something, or maybe just with a couple of modifications. It's perfect because it just the other part is so choppy and so strange, and then this part is like gives more light to it, and it's like it breathes, and that's it. I don't know if it answers the question, but
no, it does. It does.
It makes a lot of. I've done a fair amount of that where it's just like I'm gonna take this and put it right here in this composition because that's what it needs, and this has just been lying around, and we're gonna make this work.
Yeah,
totally.
It's
many
very
times. Cool. And with I used to do a lot with many stuff. That you record something as a reference for, and then you discard it, and after some time you listen to it. That's perfect for what another project maybe. It's like this technique or this idea, and it happens a lot, at least to me.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a huge part of how I compose. Actually, is like make little recordings, little chunks, and then put them all together however they fit over time.
Yeah.
But again, this record is extremely exciting for me to listen to because I can hear a new way of thinking about how to write, because I feel like I've been sort of stuck in a mode for a long time of like, I'm at the piano, it starts with a chord progression or a groove or a bass line or something like this. And now listening to this, I'm like, I want to start like melodically and try to write some passages that are kind of like this and see
that's
what
a very
it
interesting,
feels like in my world,
Because it's a good question, and I can really relate to that because I'm not writing that much lately, but I've been writing. I was trying to write a lot years ago, and one of the things that I always have trouble is that idea of if you start from the piano, it conditionates so much. At least when I was playing it, everything sounds the same, at least to me. So I remember starting to write outside the instruments, just like sitting in a chair and writing music and trusting the instincts. It's like, okay, if there's a mistake, let's fix it later, but just carry on, with the idea. And it worked me really good. But I don't know, then you meet people who always write on their instruments, and it's great. I think it's just try different approaches. For example, I never write with holding my bass, with the bass in the hand or thinking about the bass. I never did, and I think no, it will feel really strange. When I use an instrument, it's always the piano, but hardly ever it's the piano. It's like,
I've been trying to I have a vibraphone trio right now. And when I write for them, I'm trying to journal a lot, think about how ideas might sound, then write, then go back and use the vibraphone as reference, and then shape things from there. And then inevitably, my normal harmonic palette is going to come out somewhere, but that's okay. I at least I'm trying a new way. Ideas, techniques of writing, and not just doing my tried and true,
Completely. And I think important. That even Pablo usually says that, for example, for INHUMANKIND, that I think that I mentioned before, that we hardly ever correct the sheet music. It's like, we rehearse that, but there are very few real corrections. And he writes really fast. And it's that idea that, okay, maybe now you feel it's a mistake, but if you rehearse it some more, it will start to sound better. Or maybe you will find a way. No, it's not that thing. You will find a way to make it sound better. I think that's a better answer.
That's cool.
Or your ear becomes accustomed to it, perhaps?
Perhaps, or you just figure out... I feel that sometimes, not just with INHUMANKIND, with many projects, you are learning a part, or in the bass, for example, or for some reason, and it didn't sound well. That's very typical when you study, or at least when I was studying more contemporary composition. So there's some technique that you really think, that's just, it sounds odd, or I don't like that. But then somehow one day it just clicks, and you start to realize that maybe you are approaching the technique from a wrong perspective or something. But since you persevere in it, then it starts to sound good. If you just left that the first day, you will never find out this technique.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to try to, okay, I've written this, let's try to rehearse it a couple of days to see where it goes. And don't change it in the first moment.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Give it its own space to become what it is.
It's interesting how you have the main projects that you have are you have all improv, and then INHUMANKIND, which is all written. It's really there's nothing in between almost.
I don't think so. Well, but for example, Phicus, it's not written, but it's rehearsed. But it's free improvisation, of course. I have a trio project that it's not recorded yet. It's called Elena. It's compositions of mine. It's my kind of piano trio.
Okay.
And it may feel we just did one concert some months ago, and for different reasons we haven't recorded anything or played more. But probably it would fill the gap. But maybe it's mostly everything written. But it's written, but it's not that complex as INHUMANKIND. So it would be in the middle, maybe.
Interesting.
But yeah, probably it's very strange. This Humankind doesn't fit that much in the whole thing. I
Well,
never
yeah.
thought that way.
It's cool. It's cool to have balance though in one's life. I would say.
But what I know, let me answer that, because now ideas are coming. No, one of the things that I really like is that when I have a project or when I work with somebody, I like the ideas to be like, there have to be some idea. I never like it, that kind of just meet, record something without any kind of thinking about it, which is cool. I mean, I like to go there and play ad hoc sessions with people and just meet somebody and play, but I really prefer much more to, okay, let's play some more times, just see if we can find something.
Yeah.
And I think that idea of having really straight lines, like in Humankind, is purely written, technical, choppy music, and Tholos Gateway is like kind of droney. It's only dark. It has to be like totally depressive. And then having Phicus with each, everything has a really clear. There's no one in between. Probably I don't have any project that's in between. It's usually very like a fanatic who goes to one side, and just the same thing as the bass. Like when I play double bass, I just play acoustic double bass, holding the bow in the conventional way, playing that. Yeah. And if I play electronics, I only play electronics. I don't even touch the instrument. I think that I usually work that way. It will feel strange to mix it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess in all cases, you're exploring a specific idea, right?
Yeah, but I think that it usually much of the bands that I like, I always feel that they work that way. Now that we were talking about Colin Marston. If you listen to Gorguts, it's obvious that they have like a very fixed idea of what they are doing, and they just hit their head against the wall until this idea gets to, or Cryptopsy, like a non-servile. It's obvious. It's so single-minded in the best possible way. I mean, it's like there's no speculation. They just go for it, and many.
Yeah, although I think that's not. It's a struggle for some people, at least, to keep to really explore idea and keep your boundaries fixed. So it's not maybe natural for everybody to do that,
Yeah, it's hard for me personally, but
because it's sometimes easier to just wander and mix in other ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this the way that you both have kind of crystallized this, going through that. You know what I mean? It makes sense. Like after talking about it, but it's just like, yeah, each project has an aesthetic and a focus, and it sticks with it, and that makes a lot of sense, totally. Even if they're completely different from each other.
Yeah, and it helps a lot, I think, to work on it. At least for me personally, from like as an instrument player, like when I play double bass, it helps a lot to understand what kind of sound has each of the projects. Yeah. Because within Humankind, I play that kind of fast pizzicato that I don't play in any other project. Like it just only developed in Humankind. And then in Phicus, I play that kind of sludgy, low-pitched riffs and slow, that kind of. I remember that I was with Ferran, we were working a lot on just playing open strings, really tuned, and looking for this. I haven't used this technique in any other project, I think. It was just designed and developed for that. Probably this is a way like many contemporary composers think, like you develop a technique for a piece, and then, okay, you hold the bow this way and do this, and it's just for this piece. And it makes sense because it starts to be more special.
Yeah, and it defines the piece. That extended technique will define the piece in a lot of ways.
That's it. That's what I wanted to mean.
I have to. Yeah. Unfortunately, something has just come up, and I have to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry to like
it's all right.
cut it.
Do you
short.
want us to rap or do you want to transfer hosthood to me, or what would you like to do?
I mean, we could just end it now if you want.
Okay.
You know?
Well,
Sure.
I do feel like we've covered a lot
Yeah.
of territory, and
Totally.
and this was an amazing and fascinating talk. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
For real,
Thank
we
you.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it. We'll put links to all of your records that we've talked about, of course.
Great.
And folks can find us. Oh, I didn't write it down. I'm horrible. Sorry. Okay, so we should just drop this in, Bob. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can find us on Instagram at FT4HB. You can find us on Twitter at tones_4. That's FOR. And you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/fantastic tones for human bones.
Alex, really good to meet you and really good to talk to you.
Nice. Amazing. Yeah. me too.
Such an incredible musician. And thanks for your
Okay.
time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, our pleasure, man.
Speak.